accueillir Carla Harryman, qui est poète, et son exploration transgressive des genres et des poétiques, narratives, non narratives, passe par la prose expérimentale, l'essai, la performance et les collaborations pluridisciplinaires. Parmi ses ouvrages récents, on peut citer Cloud Cantata chez Pamenard Press, les éditions anglaises et françaises de Sue in Berlin, Sue à Berlin, dans une traduction de Sabine Huynh, publiée aux presses universitaires de Rouen et du Havre, ainsi que A Voice to Perform, One Opera, Two Plays, publié par Split Level Texts. Un volume en russe et en anglais, Various Devices, Selected Writings, édité par Vladimir Fechenko, apparu en 2024. Son théâtre de poètes, son Poets Theater, a été mis en scène aux États-Unis et à l'étranger. Une deuxième collaboration musicale avec John Raskin et Gino Robert paraîtra en 2026 sous le titre Occupying Theatre, Adorners Music and New Music. Elle travaille actuellement à Letters Not About Hope, un ensemble d'essais au long cours qui gravitent de manière divergente autour du concept d'utopie concrète. Ça, je l'ai appris en consultant son nouveau site, carlaharryman.com. Une trilogie de poèmes-dialogues paraîtra prochainement en un seul volume. Le texte que vous entendrez en traduction est tiré de Scales for the Living Under Duress, troisième livre de cette trilogie. Je vous demande d'accueillir Carla Harryman.
Thank you. I'm going to, the dialogue-esque works from Scales for the Living that I'm going to read tonight are in somewhat different dialogue modalities. So, for instance, the first one begins with an emphasis on very long sentences, and then the next one, they become short phrases, and then we'll see what happens after that. Standpoints. You know what I'm up to sometimes, regardless of certain casually oblivious reposts that surge through each encounter or train of thought in which you figure below a surface easy enough to imagine while wondering how long it would take to search the quantity of flow images among the arts and sciences without any interest in searching more color-coded undulations with clear layers lacking depiction or index of muck twigs, thought detritus, for instance, the three millennial muses who snagged me in the surge of airport lobby traffic recently, publicly holding forth with first a PowerPoint on one of their publication accomplishments, then on another's black and white form-fitted suit without comment on the eyeliner or mascara that punctuated their twinkly nod to a young person in the dress shop, and finally on the third muse's need for confirmation that I knew something about literature, something erudite that, if it were worth their time to talk to me, informed their discussion of three terrible-sounding films I have never heard of and that they described in detail, and to which descriptions I lacked repost, and thus, wishing you would wake me up with one of yours, as there is a stultifying abundance to conjure, though I remain speechless in the face of volcanic flows competing with conceptual charts of flow, but the memory sensation of floating down a gently moving river, which is still a commonly shared experience, despite the waterway health alerts recalling to mind those instances in which traveling down a river on my back or belly without a life jacket in peaceful ecstasy is punctured with the thought that I am moving at a faster pace without effort, and the current is picking up speed in such a way that it is a good idea, despite the coolest of shields, those crafted in light and water, forged in realism and bliss, coating me in dragonflies, goosebumps, foam, and ear pressure enough to spin my orientation to the riverbank farther and farther out to mesmeric clouds as my butt foams over a sharp rock with the water bumbling under me, increasingly whittled such that I must at this instant attempt against current to claw my way out of a sublime tincture turning mildly treacherous. Allow me that the lenticular day has become a bloom of impending cluster bombs. There are letters to Congress to sign against their use. The narrative whitewater floods the banks with wishes to get it over with, End it all, destroy the invader. Then a tank of self-annihilation rolls into the neighborhood and I see that the abstract desire to end fighting can kill that I love. How can we look at each other when this happens? Like you, I find myself moving too fast in an element, without retort. Humor loses its grace, a heavy feeling that I am not sufficiently well informed. Even the fantasy of erudition evades me. De-escalation thinking remains a set of variable communal beliefs with my subjective sense flowing through punditry's smoke and mirrors. On the other side, where living happens, who wakes up each day to the betrayal's war sets in motion? Is there an agreement to reach for? You know, there is a lack of fit between the personal and the structured standpoints from what the world is imagined and acted on, while individualized collective signing campaigns result in an onslaught of Evites to join groups whose members you don't know, as a fantasy of living, breathing crowds traipsing into the garden, eating up all the zucchini, tomatoes, eggplant, borage, basil, peppers, radishes, and playing until moonlight plumps the bed on the trampled ground. We can hoe tomorrow in shirt sleeves and sweat, disgruntled from the bruises left on shoulder blades when trying to make love on pounded, tufted soil, at which point the deluge relocates the zone of underwater phenomenon, moving dirt to build new banks lined with backroom deals the natural way, with our little snapshot of rebellion standing on the opposite shoreline with the de-escalation thinking it had seemed impossible to connect to during the Evite rampages, and our personal electronics, our computers and cell phones and watches and midis and microsound devices strung out in the currents whose established form and duration will be determined or better predicted once the bank room occupants arrive from their elsewhere havens, though the torrential waters surging through the windows yet to be installed may deter them until enforcements can determine what to do when these are still assessing the scraped land as geological time erupts more rapidly than the speed of making a plan.
Tu sais parfois ce que je trame, malgré certaines répliques distraitement désinvoltes qui surgissent à chaque rencontre ou fil de pensée, dans lesquelles tu figures sous une surface assez facile à imaginer, tandis que tu te demandes combien de temps il faudrait pour parcourir la quantité d'images flues parmi les arts et les sciences, sans aucun désir de rechercher davantage d'ondulations codées par couleur aux couches nettes, mais dépourvues de descriptions ou d'index concernant boue, brindilles, détritus de pensée. Par exemple, ces trois muses milléniales qui m'ont récemment retenu dans le flux du terminal de l'aéroport par leur discours en public, d'abord avec un PowerPoint sur la réussite éditoriale de l'une, puis sur le tailleur noir et blanc moulant d'une autre, sans commentaire, sur l'eyeliner et le mascara ponctuant leur clin d'œil scintillant à une jeune personne dans la boutique de vêtements, et enfin sur le besoin qu'a eu la troisième muse de vérifier que je savais quelque chose de la littérature, quelque chose d'érudit qui, eussent-elles jugé avantageux de me parler, informerait leur discussion de 3 films aux titres épouvantables dont je n'avais jamais entendu parler et qu'elles décrivaient en détail, descriptions auxquelles je n'avais aucune réplique à opposer et souhaitais en conséquence que tu me réveilles avec l'une des tiennes, tant il y a d'abondance étouffante à convoquer, même si je reste sans voix face à des flux volcaniques, rivalisant avec des diagrammes conceptuels de flux, mais le souvenir de cette sensation de flotter à la surface d'une rivière au courant faible, qui reste une expérience encore largement partagée, malgré les alertes sanitaires relatives aux voies navigables, rappelle ces moments où descendre une rivière sur le dos ou le ventre sans gilet de sauvetage, dans une extase paisible, et soudain traversé par la pensée que je me déplace plus vite, sans effort, et que le courant accélère, de sorte qu'il serait judicieux, malgré les plus légers des boucliers, façonnés de lumière et d'eau, forgés dans le réalisme et la félicité, qui me caparaçonnent de libellules, de chair de poule, d'écume et de pression dans les oreilles, au point de me réorienter vers la berge, de plus en plus loin, vers des nuages hypnotiques, tandis que mes fesses esquiffent une pierre acérée et que l'eau s'agite sous moi, de plus en plus ciselée, si bien qu'à cet instant précis, je dois tenter, à contre-courant, de m'extirper d'une teinte sublime devenue légèrement perfide. Permets-moi de dire que ce jour lenticulaire est devenu une floraison de bombes à fragmentation imminente. Il y a des lettres au Congrès à signer contre leur usage. Le torrent narratif déborde les rives de souhait d'en finir, de tout arrêter, détruire l'envahisseur. Puis un char d'auto-anéantissement entre dans le quartier et je vois que ce désir abstrait d'arrêter le combat peut tuer ce que j'aime. Comment pouvons-nous nous regarder en face lorsque cela arrive? Comme toi, je me retrouve à aller trop vite, dans un élément sans réplique. L'humour perd sa grâce, un sentiment lourd de ne pas être suffisamment informé. Même le fantasme d'érudition m'échappe. La pensée de désescalade reste un ensemble de croyances collectives variables et mon sentiment subjectif dérive à travers les écrans de fumée des experts. De l'autre côté, là où la vie se vit, qui se réveille chaque jour face aux trahisons que la guerre met en marche? Existe-t-il un accord à atteindre? Tu sais qu'il y a un décalage entre les points de vue personnels et structurels à partir desquels le monde est imaginé et mis en œuvre, tandis que les campagnes collectives individualisées de signatures produisent une avalanche d'invitations à rejoindre des groupes dont tu ne connais pas les membres, comme un fantasme de foule vivante et respirante qui envahissent le jardin pour dévorer courgettes, tomates, aubergines, bourraches, basilic, poivrons, radis, et jouer jusqu'à ce que le clair de lune gonfle un lit sur la terre piétinée, que nous pourrons bêcher demain en manches de chemise et en sueur, irrités par les échymoses récoltées sur les omoplates, à tenter de faire l'amour sur un sol battu et bosselé, au moment où le déluge déplace la zone vers un phénomène sous-marin, déblaye la terre pour bâtir de nouvelles berges et banques, tapissées d'accords conclus en coulisses, de manière naturelle, avec notre petit instantané de rébellion debout sur la rive opposée, avec la pensée de désescalade à laquelle il semblait impossible d'accéder durant la frénésie des invitations, et nos appareils personnels, ordinateurs, téléphones, montres, claviers MIDI et microdispositifs sonores, emportés dans les courants, dont la forme et la durée établies seront déterminées, ou mieux prédites, lorsque les occupants des berges et banques arriveront de leur refuge d'ailleurs, bien que les eaux torrentielles qui s'engouffrent par les fenêtres encore inexistantes puissent les dissuader jusqu'à ce que les forces d'intervention décident quoi faire, tandis que celles-ci évaluent encore la terre ravagée, alors que le temps géologique surgit plus vite que la vitesse d'élaboration d'un plan.
Some. How it wasn't a matter of survival. For some, we are trying to synchronize distortions. Having lived through times some didn't build on or fall out of. Wait, some didn't flirt or fall out of love. In a rare transcription, Shakespeare called my cell. It contained a virus that ended politics. Why do you make shit like that up? Choice words gnaw into a semblance of naturalness, which serves to disguise historical relationships. That's a sticker. Thorny. A practice of gluing mavericks on the page when a family can't be found. Was that Shakespeare too? No, something my mother couldn't sit still for. She could be a harsh critic. She looked up casually from her book and said, "It's hard to escape the classroom, a creed manufactured decades ago in a scene of mayhem. Windows in a fire holding onto their frames, workers hammered jingles into artillery, and the massacre with no recorded date. I gotta tell you, Rachel, an insurance agent who I don't know, texted me this message. Rachel here, with over 2 centuries of experience, those beauty secrets in the weeds of biome folly under my fingernails. Will you be using dangerous equipment? You can answer a good question. A metaphysics of sound objects, not numbers. Those flapping stems somehow got into the corpus. Think about sounds, not how it feels or smells to peel an orange. Some are baggier and some are more adhesive than others. There will be a range of shredding Can you assign different timbres to gouging, sharps, or fallout? Wait, some didn't flirt, but some did. The one who could be a harsh critic, that weight of pros and cons. Some are baggier, some are more adhesive, stuck to others. Dwellings you would die for, left empty or out of reach. Next year gives off a rugged scent, seaweed drying on shale. The source of the sound relaxes beyond the breakers, the sound of a boulder falling on coarse sand. But the source, does it have to be weather? If you need to explore, take the lantern. That dwelling is fragile from disuse. Some days have passed since we made a fiction of the time we spent together. An interruption unlocks the old house. Some. How it wasn't a matter of survival.
Some days have passed.
For some, we are trying to
Some more
synchronize
adhesive, stuck to others.
distortions, having lived through.
Or forward? Wait.
Some didn't flirt or
Can you
fall
assign
out of
different
love.
timbers to gouging?
That's a sticker, thorny.
Or fallout?
That's a
Wait.
sticker, a practice of gluing.
Pourquoi inventes-tu des choses pareilles?
Mavericks on the page when a family can't be found.
C'est une étiquette épineuse.
Was that Shakespeare too?
Seaweed drying on
No.
shale.
Something my mother couldn't sit still
Certains n'ont
for.
pas flirté ni
feels
cessé d'aimer.
or smells to peel an orange.
C'est encore Shakespeare?
You can answer a good question.
Some days have passed.
A metaphysics of sound, objects.
C'est secret de beauté.
Not numbers. Objects, not numbers.
Dans les
Can you
herbes folles.
assign different timbres to gouging?
Sous mes ongles.
Sharps?
Tu peux répondre à
Or
une bonne question?
fallout? Wait.
Des bruits
Wait.
de succion
Some didn't flirt,
ou des retombées à temps.
but some did.
Certains
some
sont plus
did.
amples. Ou hors
The
d'atteinte.
one who could be a harsh critic,
Quelques jours ont passé.
or out of reach. Dwellings you wouldn't die for, left empty.
Des algues séchant sur le schiste.
The dwelling is fragile from disuse. Some days have passed.
Une
Some days
métaphysique
have passed.
d'objets sonores.
Seaweed
pas de
dying
nom.
on shale. The source of sound relaxes beyond the breakers.
À ce que ça fait ou à l'odeur d'éplucher une orange.
An interruption unlocks the old house. Bearings. Things we can sense but not know. Were you talking to me? Sure. You became audible and ended a sentence, but there was no subject, or maybe things was the subject. I've already forgotten. These local blueberries are what I'm focused on now. What about the music? I've been blocking out the magisterial sorrow strings, but not totally. No, I'm listening with habituated ears. They take in effects and connect dynamics and passages without much demand on my attention otherwise. Interesting. I was just trying to piece something together from before I was awake. Help yourself to the berries. Sure. I couldn't tell if I was being carried off to sea or being ushered forcefully back to shore. The water wasn't very deep, thank God, or I might have woken up in a sweat. You hadn't panicked yet? No. The beauty of the shallowy gray ocean which obscured the shore and ignored the horizon was so mesmerizing it gave me a feeling of seduction and thrall, of juiced up mortality and hopeless abandon, which I was resisting as well in order to keep my bearings. This seems classic. As in, the bottom of the sea is cruel. There's nothing new in the symbolism. Yes, not even the dolphins, I suppose. They weren't porpoises? Why would they be? I have been close to dolphins many times, but never, to my knowledge, a porpoise. The dolphins were surfing on shore waves. They sprung into the picture as a signal that I would reach the beach, and I did, without clothes. When I turned around to wave goodbye, they were gone. The dolphins or the clothes? Both. Then my task was to keep my dignity in the nude. It was a mildly grimy beach with lots of people in bright swimsuits and dark tans and the smell of lotion and chips. Who wrote, "A picture is never true"? I think we could use a vacation. Did you make it back? You mean to the beginning of the dream? That was a prescient question. I did. That's how I got here, eating your blueberries. They are berries, not my berries. It's like pin the tail on the donkey. It's not my tail or my donkey, it's the tail and the donkey. Then there are donkey tales, which are also passed down through word-shattering belief systems, generation to generation. Let us genuflect to biblical abstraction. Ha! That reminds me that you didn't have any clothes on. You know that I got dressed, if you can tell this house dress dressed, if you can tell this house dress dressed. I mean, when you were naked on the shore with the sticky scent of tanning lotion gluing up your adieus to surfing dolphins. I had to walk some distance without clothes, and I just imagined myself with a plump and buff sun-tanned butt that looked like it belonged in a bikini. This helped me through a few populous spots without commotion, and then I snatched a towel, wrapped it around me like I'd just gotten out of the shower, and that's how I got back to where I started, to the pre-dawn of history. As I was saying, things we can sense but not know. To Lynn Haginian. Waves, soaked in some sublimity. Where? Along the north coast of the southern county, and riding whips of change, with the wind waving the volume up, and the volume steering, wind on wet tuft sealed, spokes plow, horizon gutter. The picture blooms onto steps, tracking observer and observed. Those fleeced in yammer, a theremin replays. Theremin, pleading and pleats, reply as cavern. Shored up hammers, turn on tip, hands, caress uncanny. Face, we know, it is invisibly felt. That's it.